What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to dive into Boston's NBA offseason, as exciting as it's been so far. Today, we got like an odd one. We got a little more Ben Simmons updates, or Ben or somebody else. We got a Missoula update of sorts. I want to look at restricted free agency, but we're going to spend most of today with some of your comments from a previous video because we had some good feedback, some good comments from the last show. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And again, it's the dog days of the NBA. It's real quiet out there outside of a couple of moving pieces that we are waiting to fall into place. But before we get started, do me a favor. If it's your first time here, hit the subscribe. We cruised past 1,700 subs on to 2,000. So be a part of the community if it's your first time here. Get involved in the chat, like the video, notification bell, all the things that make the algo go boom. All right, so J.D. Davison, right? The Celtics had just waived him, former G League MVP, was excited for him to get some minutes, and then they cut ties with him, leaving one roster spot open. Also, shout out J.D., by the way, who yesterday it was reported that he signed a one-year deal with the Houston Rockets, which means the Houston Rockets now have 75 guys on their roster. I swear to God, like 40% of the offseason moves this season have somehow involved the Houston Rockets adding a player, right? Kevin Durant, Dorian Finney-Smith, now J.D. Davison, Clint Capella. They also like re-signed a bunch of dudes. I'm sure I'm forgetting other guys too, but it feels like they've been involved in every single freaking move. So congrats to them. Happy for J.D. Davison though. I really do like his game. Again, I don't know if the Celtics were just like, it's not going to make sense here. They didn't think he was going to play. They wanted to give him a shot in another organization. So I'm glad he's getting a little bit of run. But all that to say is the Celtics have one roster spot left up for grabs. As we talked about in the last video, often the Celtics will go into training camp, into the start of the season, one spot shy, and then we'll fill it as they go. So it doesn't necessarily mean they are going to get somebody right now. But I think there are two leading candidates for the Celtics to snag up their 15th guy. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you feel, Vegas has led us to believe it is Ben Simmons, that Ben Simmons is the leader in the clubhouse. I joked in a previous video that they referred to it as the Ben Simmons sweepstakes, which I think the word sweepstakes is doing a lot of work in that sentence. But apparently the Celtics are the betting favorite to land Ben Simmons. We've already kind of talked about him at length, but I wanted to throw one other name out there, and that's Charles Bassey. Bassey, who has spent this is going to be his 5th year in the league. He was drafted in 2021 by the Philadelphia 76ers, only played 23 games with the 76ers, averaging 7 minutes a game. Not very exciting. Then he spent the past 3 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs, playing 35 games, 19 games, and 36 games. So obviously he's not somebody that is playing a ton of minutes, right? His highest average in points was in 2022, 2023, his first year with the Spurs. He averaged 5 points and 5 boards. That's what he did last season as well. He does average just about a block a game and a half a steal a game. So it's like, again, not the sexiest of sexy, right? However, Bassey did, I thought he shined, if you will, for the Boston Celtics in NBA Summer League, which we always have to throw the caveat out there, especially when it's a returning player. It makes sense for the second, third, and in Charles Bassey's case, fourth-year players to really pop in NBA Summer League, right? That's when because they've been there. They've played in the NBA before. So I don't want to look too deep into those stats just because, again, he only played 3 games with them, but he was great. He had a lot of spring to him. We've talked at length about how desperate the Celtics are for said length and how weak, we'll say a weak, their front court rotation is in Garza, Tillman, and Nehemias Queta. So I think somebody like Bassey as the 15th guy, to me, makes a little bit more sense than Ben Simmons. I think Bassey is an unknown in a lot of different ways, right? He hasn't gotten, again, the most minutes he's played per game was that second season or first season with the Spurs where he played 14 minutes per game. But other than that, it's basically been 10 minutes per game. So we haven't really seen what Bassey can do. He's always been playing behind a bunch of different bigs in San Antonio. So now, you think about what this could look like where he gets a lot of minutes. And again, the springiness we saw in Summer League, he was basically averaging a double-double in limited minutes. I just think he could, that to me makes a much more sense of a dart throw than a known quantity in Ben Simmons, where, like, yeah, man, maybe he can return to form of 6 or 7 years ago, but he's yet to show us that he's had any of that upside left. And again, he's been dealing with so many physical ailments, some mental ailments, not being in the right offensive or defensive situations. I get it. But if you think the Celtics are going to be super competitive this season. If you think they really do have like top four aspirations in the Eastern Conference, then it probably makes more sense to go the Ben Simmons route. Only because you're like, all right, well, he might have a bigger chance to actually impact, I guess. But I think if you are in a gap year, like a quick rebuild, I'd rather take the flyer on Bassie and actually see like what can we develop with him. Because again, the Ben Simmons thing is kind of a known quantity. I think we know what we got for Ben now. I know there's some belief that he can defend 1 through 5. There's some belief that he can play make still. We just haven't seen it since like 2020. So I'm not quick to be like, yeah, let's go. So anyways, that seems to be where the Celtics are heading. There's still some rumors here between Simons and Georges Niang, and rumored here. I don't have actual like trade scenarios for you, but just according to Bobby Manning of CLNS Media, that the Utah Jazz and the Brooklyn Nets seem to be the two teams that are would be primed to be involved in a deal. Celtics, however, have to get under that. Although I think with the JD Davison move, they will be able to do it, but like they can't really do a player. They can't get a player back in their current financial situation that they're in. So it either has to be a 3-team deal or they need to make one other move. But anyways, all that to say, if somebody like Georges Niang or Anthony Simons gets moved, I think it would be sharp money would be put on the Brooklyn Nets or the Utah Jazz being involved in some way, shape, or form. I think Sam Hauser, if we're speaking about Sammy, I think he is more likely to be on the Celtics at the beginning of the start of the season and probably play through the All-Star break. I think of the three, of Simons, Niang, and Hauser's the most likely not to get traded. Of those three, I think Simons the most likely to, even though just because again it's $30 million, it's an expiring contract. I could see Simons going. Niang too, same thing, where I could see him like fitting in as a ninth guy on a competitive team or something like that. But anyways, that's where we're at right now. One other thing I wanted to point out here, Joey Mazzulla. I forgot about this, and again, shout out Bobby Manning for the reporting. He had a conversation with Michael Scotto, I believe his name is. I'm sorry if I screwed that up. I didn't realize this because you don't really talk about coaches' extensions too often, but Missoula still remains without an extension. Brad Stevens this summer did come out and say that he has multiple seasons left on his contract. Michael Holley indicated that Missoula has a 26-27, so that'd be next season, a team option. When asked about how much they're prioritizing the extension, Stevens said the Celtics want Missoula around for a long time. Missoula's had such like a roller coaster of a ride, right? Where I think that first year where he took over, which was a nightmare situation. You had Ime Udoka and all the stuff that happened with him and the organization. Although, do we even know what happened at this point? How has no one reported on that yet? I mean, I know people have tried to report and there's like theories or whatever. It's been years. How has nobody brought that up? He's gotten another coaching opportunity. He's succeeding over there. Like, I don't know. I don't want to go full tinfoil hat. It's just making me like, why the team hasn't reported on it? Like, the team hasn't said anything. Nobody's leaked anything. Ime hasn't said anything. It's just kind of like 1, 2, 3 never happened. It's a weird situation. Anyways, Missoula comes in right at the start of the season with a team that was like fresh off of like deep playoff runs, right? And now he's got to figure it out, and it was a weird touch and go situation. And then all of a sudden, he's an NBA champion. So I feel like people have gone full tilt on Joe Mazzulla, being like, this is terrible. Why don't the Celtics get an upgrade to like maybe Mazzulla is a mastermind? Curious what the chat's thoughts are on Joey Maz and his longevity here with the Boston Celtics. I'm a Mazzulla fan. I'll like it. I think it is frustrating sometimes with the Celtics team or the Celtics team in the past. I don't know if we're going to see that this season where they're just chucking threes, 100% of the time. And everybody's like, well, it's actually a good shot mathematically speaking. It's a good shot. Sometimes maybe go to the rack a little bit, just go to the rim, especially in that series against the New York Knicks. Like, did we shoot ourselves out of it? Yes. So I don't know. There's, you could poke holes, but ultimately, I think Mazzulla, the players seem to love playing for him. He does seem like he's got a couple of screws loose, but like in a good way, I guess, if that can be in a good way. Or the better way to phrase it, we all have a couple of screws loose, and Joe's are good screws, something like that. I don't know. But I kind of like it. I hope Mazzulla sticks around for a while. I don't want them to wait until after this season to figure it out. Like, I don't think you should take the performance of this 25-26 Boston Celtics team and be like, this decides Mazzulla's future. I don't think that makes sense. I think, this is going to be a weird season, I think. Even if they overperform, I still think it's going to be a weird season. So I hope they keep Mazzulla around. Curious what your thoughts are. The other thing I wanted to talk about here is this Kaminga situation, because the reason Al Horford has yet to sign with the Golden State Warriors is that they can't figure out what to do with Jonathan Kaminga. Kaminga is in a similar situation as all these restricted free agents. Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes, Josh Giddey, and Jonathan Kaminga, all on paper, good basketball players. Like Josh Giddey, I know he's included in the OKC trade. I know he's had some off the court stuff that's been a little weird. But I know Giddey kind of got this bad rap for how he played in that not this past championship run, obviously, but when he was his last season with OKC for how he performed in the playoffs. But I thought the second half of the season, I mean, Giddey was almost shooting like 40%, or he was shooting over 40% from three. He was averaging like a triple-double the second half of the year. Like, I really liked what Giddey was doing. Cam Thomas had a tough time staying on the court last season. He got into spats with Zach Lowe on Twitter. Then Cam Thomas yesterday. I love when people report on stuff like this. Cam Thomas unfollowed the Brooklyn Nets on Instagram. Now, I'm sure that will get him paid, right? I'm sure Brooklyn was like, I'm not sure if we want to pay Cam Thomas. And then he's like, well, what if I unfollow you on Instagram? And then he's like, oh, shit, Cam, my bad, man. Jonathan Kaminga, same thing with Golden State, he wants close to $30 million. The Warriors are like, absolutely not. And now Kaminga's just flat out said from his agent, I don't want to play in Golden State. And I don't blame him. Kaminga is going through a similar situation, although not the exact same situation, but a similar one is Jason Tatum. Remember when Tatum was on the Olympic team with Steve Kerr and he was banished to the bench during the Team USA run? And again, I don't know. Do you fault Steve Kerr? They won the gold medal, so I don't know. But anyways, banished to the bench. Kaminga's facing the same thing where he's been this up-and-coming talent for a long time. He'll get some run. He'll do a good job out there when they're shorthanded, and then the starters come back or whatever, and then he gets banished to the bench. And Kaminga's finally like, hey, man, you've tanked my value. I want to go somewhere else. So Kaminga apparently wants to go to Phoenix or Sacramento, which, if you ask me, if there's a player that said, I would like to go to Phoenix or Sacramento, that's a red flag. I don't want that guy on my team. I don't know who's looking at the landscape of the league and being like, get me to Sacramento. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. That means he just wants to score 30 points a game on a bad team. Go ahead and get it. And then the other one, Quentin Grimes, who I actually think is the most interesting of those four pieces because he looked awesome the second half of the year. But that's because part of the reason the Sixers were without Maxey, McCain, Embiid, Paul George, and they were without everybody. So he had to do a little bit more. But it's just another, as the Celtics go through these growing pains right now with their roster construction due to injury and finances, this is a reminder, this new CBA, this new second apron, and how the NBA's financials are doing. You can't, a guy like Giddey 5 years ago is probably making $30+ million a year, right? He basically averaged a triple-double. You would assume he'd make a little bit more. And now he's probably going to sign some 2-year deal or something so he can get back onto the market and only make $20+ million. So I don't know. I think those four guys are kind of holding up the rest of the market. The reason Al Horford hasn't landed in Golden State is because they're still trying to figure out what they're doing with Kaminga, what their books look like. So I think once those moves start getting solidified, and I'm assuming they're all going to stay with those teams because no other teams have money. It's not like Giddey has any leverage. They can't be like, oh, well, the Pacers are offering me X amount of dollars because they don't. No one's got the cap space. No one's got the cap space. So all these guys are getting screwed. So you either have to be a top 20 player or a bargain bin guy. There's nobody that can make $22 million a year anymore. Actually, according to Evan Siddery on Twitter, here are the highest paid NBA players for the 25-26 season. Steph Curry leading the way, $59.6 million for this season. Nikola Jokic makes $55 million this season. Embiid makes $55 million this season. Okay, so ready? Here's a question for you. Does Joel Embiid play more than how many million? More games than how many million he's going to make this year? 55. Does he play at least 55? He's going to make $1 million a game. Giannis makes 54. Jimmy Butler makes 54 million this year. Anthony Davis makes 54 million. Tatum makes 54. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Jaylen Brown and Karl Anthony Towns all make $53 million a year. I think one of the things that stands out, because I think you'll be like, wait, Jimmy Butler's making as much as Giannis and Tatum, or you're like Jaylen Brown's making as much as KD, Booker, and Towns. It's every time somebody signs a new deal, they're going to jump up on this list. That's just kind of how it works, right? Because now new maxes are unlocked. When the new max is unlocked, that's how you get paid. So it does seem a little wild to see JB that high up. And the Celtics, man, that's $107 million between two guys. One of them isn't playing this year. Woof. All right, let's get into some of your comments here. But before we do that, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Let's get this up to 2K, shall we? We got a couple of good ones today. Our guy, Joe's MPTE Bago Joe 6445 says, Joe Mazzulla may be the only dude who may get Ben Simmons to shoot a three. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love that idea. Joe Mazzulla can get anybody to shoot a three. So maybe that is the case for Ben Simmons. Maybe we need Ben Simmons here so Joe Mazzulla can fix you. Shout out Coldplay and the CEO of Astronomer, or formerly of. Dacian 1017 says if he plays center, power forward, and this is about Ben Simmons, center, power forward, and maybe some point guard play would be dope. Hit some layups and dunks, pretty good defense 1 through 5. And then, again, that's about Ben Simmons, but Vicky also comes down and said the Celtics need to focus on the 2026 season, next season. Let's see what Walshy and Baylor can do with their minutes. That's kind of where I land, too. Like, I just want to see some of these young guys get an opportunity to play. Like, Walsh, rightfully so, and Baylor Shireman last season, too. Like, when you were on a championship caliber team, you're not going to get, like, a chance to develop in-game. This is the time to give them some run. Let's see what you have with Walsh. Are you bringing him back? Let's see what you got. Baylor Shireman, let's see. Let's see if you can build off the summer league stuff. Let's see if the shot will fall. I like it. I like it. Let's let them build. Then we've got Brendan McGurk said, wait, did I skip one? No. Brendan McGurk says, I think if you're not sold on Nehemias Queta, shout out the Portuguese Prince, then I would call Utah. Simons, a first and a couple second picks for Walker Kessler. Pay the price, get the young talent, and then re-sign this season to a $60 million over 4 years. This is what I would say. I think Walker Kessler, I love this, by the way. I love Walker Kessler's game. I think barely anybody's seen him play because it's in Utah. I don't think anybody's watching League Pass games to see Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton dribble, shoot. I really like Walker Kessler. I think he makes a ton of sense with how the Celtics play basketball. Even though he can't really do the stretch five stuff, it allow him to play 4 out, and then he can just do the rim protecting stuff. So I love the Walker Kessler take. 4 years, 60, he's going to get more than that. Like right now, he's on the rookie deal, which is why it would be so expensive, why Simons would have to be included, plus a bunch of picks, I think, like you said, a couple first. Or a first and a couple of seconds. I do think if the Utah does not think they are going to extend Walker Kessler, if they don't think they're going to pay him a bigger bag, then yes, I do think they would absolutely do this. But I do think you have to know that you're paying Kessler probably closer to $100 million. I think he's like Nick Claxton. I think made 4 years, $100 million or like 99. I think he's going to make more than Nick Claxton. I think it'd be like 25 to 28 million. Again, maybe that's not adjusting to the new CBA enough, but I do think Walker Kessler hasn't been paid yet. You know, he's just been on that rookie deal, so he's going to want his bag. But I would like it, man. I love Walker Kessler. I'm a big fan. 2 more questions here. We get AJB says, thoughts on Derek White being an all-star this year? Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, if the Celtics decide they're not going to tank, and even if they do tank, they probably don't aggressively do that till the second half of the season. I do think White, Peyton Pritchard, and Tatum, and Jaylen Brown are all going to be fringe all-star guys. I think it depends, though. Like, White does all the dirty work, right? And so if sometimes they don't recognize the dirty work on a team that is, say, sub 500, and if the Celtics aren't succeeding, maybe White does not get the same like light shown on him. However, I mean, White's going to have more shot opportunities. He's going to have more playmaking opportunities, facilitating. Same thing with Peyton Pritchard. Like I think at the very least, Peyton Pritchard is going to compete in the 3-point contest this season. That would be my guess, anyways. And I think the All-Star game's in LA this year. BT Dubs. All right, one more question. Alan Hoover says #mustache Mike. Which current Celtics player should rock a mustache? This is the hard-hitting stuff that we do this for. This is why we get up in the morning, okay? My initial thought was Peyton Pritchard. Somebody said Baylor Shireman. I think that's great, too. Baylor Shireman is a great one. What if Jaylen Brown just goes full stash? What if he goes like handlebars, bring them all the way down? I'd be okay with that. More importantly, need to hear from you. Who needs to rock the mustache? Mazzulla? Do we go, or does Mazzulla already rock a mustache? I think he does. I don't know why I can't see it right now. But that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you tuning in for a weekend edition of the Celtics Daily. We will be back at you tomorrow, hopefully with some more news, some more notes, and some more goofs. Hit the subscribe on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow.